Next, we do have our startup story for the day. I'm really excited about this one because this is a green building material. This is the startup story for Glavel. Glavel is a foam glass gravel company. Rob Conboy will be our startup. He's the CEO. And our moderator will be Mitch Tyson, who is the chair of our board, amongst many, many other things. So Rob, I'm going to have you start with your elevator pitch, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Amy and Toonie, for having us. Really excited to present foam glass gravel to the group and tell you a little bit about our journey and our startup story. So as Ben mentioned in his presentation, as we gravitate towards these energy efficient buildings and healthier buildings, the need to find cost effective materials is critically important. So back in 2016, I was at an energy efficient building conference in Darmstadt, Germany, on the lookout for those types of materials that we could possibly manufacture here in the United States. And a partner that I had known for a while said, I've always wanted to manufacture foam glass gravel in the United States. And I'm like, okay, what is this magical rock that you're showing me? And come to find out, foam glass gravel is a product that's been on the market in Europe for over 20 years, and it's manufactured from recycled glass. And what's amazing about it is it's a perfect substitute for the nasty foam board that our green buildings are built upon. So a typical green building in a cold climate will install a layer of drainage, stone underneath, then this foam board, and then the building on top of that to achieve their energy efficiency goals. So it's a bit of a trade-off. We're trying to have green buildings that demand less energy to heat and cool them. So the dirty little secret is that we bury a lot of petroleum and nasty chemicals in order to achieve that. And the amazing ability of foam glass gravel is that it serves two functions. So rather than having to install the drainage layer and then a layer of foam board to achieve your energy efficiency goals, you can install one product. And the other amazing part of the story is that there's not a green premium. So as we look to displace as much petroleum-based, chemical-laden foam board under green buildings, you don't have to pay a green premium for our product. It's actually cost parity, or with some of the new pricing that's just been announced on the foam board side because of the cost of petroleum fluctuating, we will be actually significantly cheaper, in the 10% range than traditional installed solutions for under slab. In Europe, half of the product is sold into the green building application that I just described. That's the background that I come from. Prior to Glavel, I spent 5 years at a financial services company dedicated to trying to bring financing specifically to energy efficient buildings. So Glavel was sort of born out of that in that experience. The other half of the sales are in infrastructure. So we have projects that we're providing quotes for in Providence for the massive I-95 corridor project that's going on up there. So we're very hopeful that the timing will work out, that we can get a Rhode Island plant up and running for some of the Rhode Island projects that are in the pipeline. From the very beginning, Glavel has been committed to a mission in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was first manifest with a strong commitment to breaking the cycle of incarceration. That was a primary goal as we grow our workforce and start hiring for our first plant up in Vermont. We're going to be working with an organization called Working Fields that's dedicated to placing formerly incarcerated, addicted individuals into jobs like ours, and really excited to be working with them. We're also committed to equal pay. We were one of the first companies in Vermont to sign the Vermont Equal Pay Compact, and we're really excited to be placing new Americans into good paying jobs up here in Vermont and hopefully Rhode Island as well. Our governor just recently announced he was requesting additional refugees for Vermont. So we're really excited to be part of that program. So that's kind of the pitch, and I know Mitch has all kinds of great questions for me.
I have an hour of questions. Is that okay?
Sure, no problem.
Let me start with an observation, probably is from my angel investing hat. But the construction industry is not known for thinking outside the box or looking at innovation solutions. So what is the pain, the customer pain that your product market fit addresses that makes Glavel so compelling?
Yeah, there's always a concern that when you have excavators who have been doing something forever one way, and to kind of introduce a new way of doing things is one point of concern. I think while we're not naive to think that everyone's just going to welcome us with open arms, we do know that because we are eliminating typically a handoff between trades. So if you have an excavator coming in and putting digging out the trench for the foundation and putting in the drainage, you may have another trade coming to put the foam board on top of that, and then the concrete gets poured. So being able to eliminate a step in a project plan for a GC is like gold, because that's where you see cost overruns and projects sort of getting pushed out. And it does just sort of come down to the economics. So, a project that we recently bid for a parking garage, I bumped into the bidding GC here in town, and when they ran the numbers on the parking garage for this, what was spec'd in was a really expensive version of foam board, and the drainage versus our product, we were significantly cheaper. So it always comes down to the dollars and cents. So
that's always helpful. But
yeah.
you also have a sustainability angle on it. So people who are doing net zero houses, net zero buildings probably find this very attractive. So go over the green story here, and particularly your strategy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we were first introduced to foam glass gravel, the plants that we saw, in order to convert glass powder, or I should start with the recycled glass. So it starts with recycled glass that some of you might know has little or no value right now. There's not really a home for recycled glass. So it takes that recycled glass that's been cleaned to less than 1% non-glass, and you grind it into a powder. And that powder is combined with some benign foaming agents like glycerin and some binders that then you run through a kiln at about 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. And what foams up is the foam glass gravel that fractures into the aggregate at the end. And most of the plants that we toured were gas fired. And we had at the onset in 2016 said, well, someday we'll be all electric and we'll be at the cutting edge, and where it makes sense from an energy pricing perspective, we want to electrify and have a low carbon product. And I guess it was 2018, I guess no, it was 2019, came to the realization that we just simply can't put off till later those types of commitments and decisions. So I crunched the numbers around what's the additional CapEx for an electric kiln versus a gas-fired kiln, what's the potential differential on the energy source, and figured that it was just basically the right thing to do to produce this product using 100% renewable energy. And that ended up coinciding really nicely with the American Institute of Architects announcing the climate crisis, or acknowledging the climate crisis, and calling on their members to consider the embodied carbon in materials that they use to build their buildings, not just the carbon from the operational heating and cooling of those buildings. And then later in 2016, a little company, Microsoft, and another little construction firm, Skanska, partnered to develop a database called the EC3, whereby you can look at what's the embodied carbon trade-offs for different materials. So we feel we're really at the forefront of what will be much more of a hockey stick in terms of awareness of embodied carbon in building materials.
Yeah, that's a trend to report embedded carbon. So your headquarters is in Vermont, but you're looking at a location in Rhode Island. So if you could explain the why of it, but also how many jobs might be entailed, what kind of positions, and of course, what may be of interest to people is how might they apply for positions?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as you can imagine, as a startup, we were looking at lots of different locations. When we started out, we were thinking we might be in one of the 5 boroughs. The partner that introduced me to the product had another company based down there and ended up not being located in one of the 5 boroughs. And, you know, Rhode Island made sense in a lot of different reasons. One, I'm from Vermont. Rhode Island's another small state. There's something really nice about small states where, you know, it's the 2 sides of the same coin. There's lots of benefits because everybody knows everybody, but there's also some detriments because everybody knows everybody. But I think it keeps you honest, and there's just an openness that I think was really attractive to citing our second plant in Rhode Island. And, you know, quite frankly, the support at Commerce and at Quonset and you know, folks like Toonie and Amy, it's just an incredibly welcoming environment for startups, quite frankly. In terms of job creation, one of the things that we committed to, in addition to the manufacturing facility, that's going to be about 25,000 square feet, with employees right around 16 or 18 employees for the manufacturing center, because of some of the credits that are available in Rhode Island for research and development. We've committed to creating a foam glass research and development center down in Rhode Island. So all really good paying jobs. You know, we want to pay livable wages or more. We want employees to stay with us for a long period of time and grow with us. So we're committed to being an employer of choice.
Great, great. If anyone has any questions, put them in the chat and I'll pose them to Rob. So I think Toonie put it in the chat. Talk to us about how you finance the company and what the current financing efforts are about.
Yeah, so kind of a typical arc in terms of, you know, friends and family round to get the project launched, whereby we were proving out that there is demand for the product. So currently we're importing product from a partner in Germany, and that served us really well. So we're sitting on a very healthy sales pipeline, essentially pre-selling the output for the Vermont plant and then the follow-on Rhode Island plant. And, you know, finding the right financing partners for the first plant, working with different CDFIs, and then Bill Ash and Commerce have been incredibly supportive for teeing up the Rhode Island plant.
So I still see no more questions, no questions from the audience. I'll ask one more, and
Yeah.
that is, where do you see Glavel and foam glass in 10 years from now? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I think it's going to be just an incredible alternative. As you can imagine, the construction industry and infrastructure is an enormous addressable market. So we're not naive enough to think that we're going to eclipse all the other players, but we're going to make a mark and have an incredibly healthy alternative to what's currently on the market. We also see ourselves as solution providers and disruptive. We want to make it clear that things like committing to a mission around diversity, equity, and inclusion aren't things to do later, that we want startups to commit to doing those things from the get-go. There's no reason to put off having that part of who and what you are from the get-go.
Rob, I have one quick question for you. Is this your first startup?
I have been involved in a lot of different startups. My first startup was actually a solar monitoring company. I then went to a startup that was doing these very large, they were meant to be insulated tanks to hold hot water that was heated from solar thermal to heat and cool houses in the shoulder seasons. And then the startup before this one was that the financial services company. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. We love to hear from people who've been there before and who know what they're talking about.
Rob, thank you so much. I think it'd be great to have Glavel as part of the Rhode Island ecosystem. I think there are so many ways that you can be a role model to other startups and other companies that are addressing, the green technology and getting it into our infrastructure. Thank you very much, Amy. I will turn it back to you.
For those of you who are, thank you, Rob and Mitch. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Mitch.
We've
Thanks,
definitely
Rob.
enjoyed learning. I wish you all the best, Rob, and I can't wait until we can say that you are truly a Rhode Island company. That's all I have for today. So please remember to join us next week for Robots at Work. We'll be on once again from 10:30 until 1 p.m. And we have a great lineup of Rhode Island manufacturers talking about how they use robots in their plants and plan to continue that way. And we're also talking to a company that does underwater drones. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Rob, thank you. Mitch, you're amazing. I'm so proud because we have the best board for our nonprofit and you're a wonderful leader of our board. So thank you. And I'm pretty obsessed with this topic.
The organization is really the staff and Toonie and Amy and so many other people. The Innovation Studio and the different venture cafes and district halls, all of them is their work and their creativity. And I just want to acknowledge that as well.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and helping us continue to build out this important programming. This is our future. This is innovative, and and I was even thinking, Mitch, in some of our upcoming workshops that we're doing regionally, we should definitely have Rob involved in those as well, because he does set a good example of that. And Amy, I just don't want to forget, we need to introduce Rob to James and his program.
I want to say in particular, Rob, your commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is really fantastic. And there's a number of organizations I'm involved with that are trying to inculcate that throughout the clean energy industry. The clean energy industry is largely white male, and we need to take proactive steps to invite others in so that we create the diversity that will make our organization stronger. And I think you're a great example of how that can be done.
Yeah, exactly. And not to be a broken record, but we have to do it now. You know, again, I think the sort of nature that, oh, we can do that later. It's just, there's just no reason not to do it now.